curious. I brought my own scale. Yeah. I didn't want to smash it though, because I want to ask you about it. Sure. See, this one, it doesn't just turn you away. And I'm just wondering, like, does this still make it abusive? You told me it was like an abusive
So it depends on how you use it.
Yeah,
definitely depends on how you use it. So, for example, this is just an example, okay? Yeah. So there are some people who might utilize it, and let's say they hop on it, once a week or once a month, just to kind of see where they're at, all right? But whatever the number says, it doesn't affect how they feel, how they eat, how they visualize their body that day, right? So then we have that's one side of it, right? And then we have another side of it, which some people, especially those with eating disorders, disordered eating, body image issues, if they start stepping on the scale every single day, or if when they do step on the scale, then that basically sets
oh no, I'm sure, like the people, I was really, I figured that it would be a pretty good unconventional way to like give, people with eating disorders the ability to like smash an effigy, which is basically what's happening. But what I was curious about was that the impression I was getting from the program, from both Mirror Monday and today, is again, it's kind of like smashing, something that was telling you something about yourself, and the challenge is not getting away from it, the challenge is accepting who you are as it is, right?
True. However, if this continues to be abusive, we actually, in treatment, and you can talk to me and the counselors about this, we recommend that they get rid of their scale. They don't need, because it can be a defining measure for them. That's a number. It doesn't need to be a defining measure. And the same thing with how people look. People think, okay, I don't have this color hair, okay, my nose looks this way, okay, whatever. Again, they can use that to define who they think they are, and that's not who they are.
No, I understand
that. So they have a personality that you can't see via a mirror or a scale.
Yeah, I was looking at this, and I was wondering how many people here would have eating disorders.
You would be surprised, and actually a lot of them are undiagnosed.
A lot of them are undiagnosed? Yeah. Okay, how do you diagnose them?
They actually go under an assessment with the counseling center. They could do that with a psychiatrist as well. But there is actually an assessment tool, the DSM-5, which is the
DSM-5?
Diagnostic Standard Manual. That's what psychologists and psychiatrists use to make diagnosis of mental illnesses. Okay. And so there are certain assessments that a person would go through. And then you have to be, psychiatrists actually make that diagnosis. I can't make that diagnosis as a dietitian.
Do any of the counselors in Kennesaw Hall make those diagnoses?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We have a psychiatrist on campus who probably does most of the diagnosing, just because that's kind of how people usually see her first, and then they'll be trickled to us. But yeah, she's totally qualified. So
do they? I'm just curious. How long has Lovely Body Week been celebrated on KSU? How many years? Do you know?
Quite a few years. It was happening before I came, and this is my third year on campus, and we've done it.
Do you guys follow up with people who've been previously involved in the program? Do you see if they've had any success, or?
Well, it's more of, it's not necessarily, it's really hard to track, I'll say,
I imagine
this type of event. So we track when we have like clients who come and see us one-on-one. That's more trackable.
Well, I'm assuming KSU still makes you have that, like sign-up sheet with student ID and all that.
Well, we don't ask for that with this type of programming. So it's like I said, it's really hard to track something like this. But based on the needs assessment, and we do many surveys actually throughout the year that are through third-party vendors, and they basically, based on what the students tell us via taking that survey, we base the services and the programs that we offer off of that. So their students are telling us what they need, and then we go out and provide it for them, basically. But in this type of setting, it's really hard to track, whether someone has had success with it, just because you don't have that continuous follow-up, and then you have so much, there may be people who are here one year, here not here next year. It's not a study, right? It's not a research study. We can't.
Well, but on the subject of research, what kind of research do they have for, say, any psychological benefits that come from doing something like this, like doing this release?
It's definitely out there. We don't do it on campus, but there are other organizations.
No. I'm sure. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, where can I find your references? I'd like to do more research.
Good question. So you can look on the National Eating Disorder Awareness website.
National Eating Disorder Awareness.
Yep. I mean, they're a great resource. I would contact them if you want, actual studies. They may not have them listed necessarily, but they're out there. And I mean, you have access to Galileo, PubMed.
Right.
So you can definitely look out there. It's out there. Are these types of, we wouldn't have treatment facilities, we wouldn't have treatment programs, so the research is definitely...
No, I'm sure that you guys at some point had to have a justification there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still curious about reading up about it, seeing what it's about. I'm actually, I'm in a position where a lot of the kind of work that I do, I'm very concerned about things like gender issues, body image issues, and all that. And whenever I look at this, I worry about cases where people are essentially encouraged to feel like that nothing is their fault when they do have a part of a responsibility in helping better themselves. And when I saw Love Your Body Week being celebrated at KSU, and I told you my concern already, I just feel like if people cover up what is essentially symbolic of reality, it denies them that capacity to see things for what it is.
So, and that is definitely a deeper issue, and I can understand that. We are not promoting covering up what is the reality. Okay, what we are trying to promote and bring awareness to is taking maybe what someone would consider a reality, and it destroying their life. All right, mental illnesses, eating disorders actually have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness out there. There is solid research for that. So we are absolutely not saying to cover that up. But for some people, like I said, it's an abusive relationship with whatever tool it may be, whether it's food, whether it's a scale, whether it's a tape measure.
Hey, I don't know if I told you this last time, but I did used to be obese, and when I lost all my weight, it was because I took up running, but there was, that change of environment, you know what I mean? And I did have like a mirror and a scale, but what I did not have was access to the same garbage that we're fed. And and by that I mean like like your fast foods and your convenience and all that. I was out in the boondocks. I was out isolated from that stuff, and any food I did have to get came from a farmer's market.
Right.
So we're talking your local places.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, in a program like this, I think maybe instead of doing the scale and mirror smashing, you could do something like take all your junk food from home and throw it in the garbage where it belongs.
See, as a dietitian, I would have to completely disagree with that statement.
Why is that?
Right? Because we have to be aware of the environment that this is and the climate that this college is on. Okay. So as a dietitian, I have the philosophy, and so do many other dietitians, that there is no good or bad food, because food does not define who you are as a person. Right? It absolutely is not. So some people say, oh, I ate this chocolate cake, I'm so bad. No, you're not.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, it's like it doesn't have to be necessary. It's about health, right? It doesn't have to be about appearance.
It's also about mental health as well, and how you feel about the food that you eat. Yeah, very important. I completely understand wanting to fuel your body with the most nutrient-dense things, but there's not necessarily a fine line. It's a spectrum. So you have white, you have black, and you have gray. Nutrition, very much in the gray.
No, I'm sure.
Right? Very, very much in the gray, okay? So as a dietitian, if there are people who come into my office and realistically, they're going to still eat fast food, I'm not going to tell them to not eat fast food. Let's look at what those options are, and let's see if we can balance it a little bit better. So maybe they're going to get a little bit more nutrient-dense foods than not. So I honestly think that's an issue with a lot of people who aren't qualified nutrition professionals trying to make these recommendations. Is it's like you have to take in all of these different perspectives of everything. So that would not be a healthy is it more like it sounds like this is more nurture than nature though. Like there's no consideration of nature or the way that... No, there absolutely is. There absolutely is. So, and what I was going to say is, in most promotion, in most health promotion, it actually doesn't work to tell people to not do something, to stop doing something.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm suggesting. Like I'm saying, like what you're doing here, like the smashing of the effigy is essentially a something that could be very effective, but wouldn't be actually. I'm just wondering, why not get rid of something that is actually harmful, like the food?
It depends on how a person eats it. So that's why we have nutrition education on campus. That's why we have various events that I'm at, and we are actually promoting. We're not saying don't do this, but we're more so saying do this, because people don't take the message very well if they're told to stop something or not do something. But rather than saying, okay, don't stop eating junk food, that's not the message that we say. We say, all right, so let's include more fruits and vegetables. How can we do that? So you see what I'm saying? It's not punishing people for eating a certain food. It's promoting, like, hey, you can actually do this. You can include this. We can find a way to make that happen.
So, in this event, aren't you still like excluding and essentially saying to people, stop using your scale and stop using your mirrors?
Stop using it if it's abusive. That's the message.
The only other question I have then is, in Mirror Monday, no one was consulted on the mirrors being covered. Everyone's mirrors were covered, like except the men's restrooms. But it was just it sounds like to me like you're saying, let's have that choice, like let's have it so that. But in the way that this program was promoted, there was no choice.
Well, there was a choice, because that was one day of this entire week. Right? It's a promotion. It's not that we're saying cover up your mirrors every single day. Although some people find that helpful. They find that helpful. They don't look at a mirror, and they are actually much happier with themselves when they don't. All right, so that's not what we're saying. Again, it's one day. That can't be generalized for the entire year for every single day. That's not what it's saying. Okay. So that's something to remember. It just can't be taken that way.
Well, thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
You have a good one now.